How's it going, guys? Vaibhav here, and following the launch of the OnePlus 9 series, it's no surprise to see the OnePlus 9 Pro being mentioned alongside the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra when it comes to the best smartphone of 2021 so far, at least in terms of Android. But let's take a look at what OnePlus's journey has been over the past couple of years. It sort of had the benchmark when it came to specifications, and it slowly improved on its other factors, things like design, things like its display, and this year, the camera. But as far as the OnePlus 9 Pro is being touted to be, does it come close to the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, or is it just another glorified marketing attempt? Well, this video aims to find out. We're gonna start off with the displays of both of these smartphones, which I think is a very subjective thing to start off with because we perceive colors differently and people have their own preferences. But despite all of that, the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra comes with a 6.8-inch Quad HD Plus panel, this time with a full 120Hz refresh rate. This is an AMOLED panel with LTPO support, which means its refresh rate can vary between 10Hz and 120Hz, and to top it all off, it also comes with a slight curvature, but it's not as pronounced as the curves we've seen in past Samsung devices, which I think personally is a very good move. This year exclusively, the Galaxy S21 Ultra also supports the stylus, so it does have a Wacom digitizer, which basically means all your Galaxy Note 10 or Galaxy Note features rather will be available on the Galaxy S21 Ultra as well, either through the Note Pen or the S Pen that's sold separately specifically for the Galaxy S21 Ultra. For the OnePlus 9 Pro, the display is still really good. So it's a 6.7-inch panel, slightly smaller than the Galaxy S21 Ultra, but it also sports an LTPO AMOLED panel, which means its refresh rate can vary all the way up to 120Hz, but it can go all the way down to 1Hz. And perhaps that's one reason to pick up the OnePlus 9 Pro over the Galaxy S21 Ultra, because the lower Hertz range for the OnePlus 9 Pro basically means you're gonna save battery life more often than not in the long run, but I don't know how much of an impact this is going to make, and we're gonna talk more about battery life in that section to come later in this video. But aside from all of that, the one thing that stands out with the OnePlus 9 Pro's display is the pronounced curvature. I think OnePlus tends to merge the premium feel to a curved screen, which not many people agree with. So in that respect, the OnePlus 9 Pro panel might not be for everyone, but you do get a full Quad HD Plus resolution. So in terms of side-by-side comparisons, I don't think there's much in it when it comes to both of these panels. Okay, so there might not be much of a separation when it comes to display, but let's talk about the design, where I think there is a separation, but there's a separation towards OnePlus on one side, but also towards the Galaxy S21 Ultra on the other side. Let's get durability out of the way, where I think the Galaxy S21 Ultra is the more natural winner. It comes with the latest Corning Gorilla Glass Victus versus the now confirmed Gorilla Glass 5 on the OnePlus 9 Pro on both the front as well as the back. Both of the phones, however, do come with IP68 water and dust resistance. This year, Samsung's gone for this contour cut camera design, which sounds very fancy on paper, but even when you look at the Galaxy S21 Ultra in real life, I do have one, it oozes class. Also, there's no wonky branding like that 100x space zoom we saw on the Galaxy S20 Ultra from last year, and more so, it just adds to the overall minimal look of the smartphone, which is not something that OnePlus achieves with the OnePlus 9 Pro. The design on the OnePlus 9 Pro isn't bad, but it just could be better. Hasselblad on the camera module is something we'll discuss in the next section of this video, but it doesn't quite sit right when it comes to aesthetics, especially when it's plastered all over the camera unit. And OnePlus marketing the glossy version to be the lead piece for the OnePlus 9 Pro just doesn't seem to make much sense, because that is a smartphone that attracts too many fingerprints for a 2021 flagship smartphone, and I just wish they marketed the matte version to be the lead piece, because the matte Galaxy S21 Ultra doesn't attract any fingerprints. But you've got to give it to OnePlus when it comes to the sleek design that they've opted for. At 197 grams, it's almost 30 grams lighter than the Galaxy S21 Ultra, which is a very noticeable difference when you have both of these phones side by side. And also, it's 0.2 millimeters thinner at 8.7 millimeters, which again might not seem like a lot, but it definitely adds to make the smartphone just a bit more manageable when it comes to one-handed use. With that though, it's time to address raw power, and I think this is one situation or one aspect where the OnePlus 9 Pro definitely comes out on top when you look at the smartphone from a global level. So if you don't already know, people in the USA or China get the exact same Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 octa-core chip that's found on both the OnePlus 9 Pro and the Galaxy S21 Ultra, the latest and the greatest. But for the Galaxy S21 Ultra owners in Asia or in Europe or the Middle East like I am, they get the Exynos 2100 octa-core CPU, which is supposed to bring a lot of improvements compared to the previous Exynos 990 chip we found last year, and there's definitely improvement. You can check out my full review down in the description to learn more about its performance. However, it doesn't quite stack up to the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 processor, which I do feel is a bit more superior when it comes to prolonged usage, when it comes to heating performance and overall thermal performance of the smartphone. And so from that perspective, the OnePlus 9 Pro definitely wins this part. Addressing other hardware, base variants of both the smartphones come with 128GB of UFS 3.1 storage, but different RAM capacities. You have 12GB of RAM on the Galaxy S21 Ultra versus 8GB of RAM on the OnePlus 9 Pro. RAM on both is DDR5 and both smartphones do not have microSD expansion support. Lastly, there's software, and Oxygen OS 11 on the OnePlus 9 Pro is arguably a hybrid between stock Android and One UI 3.1, which is what the Galaxy S21 Ultra runs on the smartphone. And to be honest, I think this is where personal preference starts to creep in once again. For me, I feel like One UI is a better overall software just because of the fact that Oxygen OS has adopted a lot of similarities from One UI, and if you know how to handle the advertisements that you get on One UI, which is basically reading the terms and conditions and making sure you untick the option to get notifications for advertisements, I don't find any advertisements on the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra for the regular use that I use the smartphone. But I do know there are a number of people who might be watching this video who are hardcore fans of Oxygen OS, and I completely get that. So I think it comes down to personal preference more than anything else. Plus, Samsung now has the added advantage of giving 3 years of update support, and that way OnePlus is a bit under pressure because over the last year or so, OnePlus has sort of slacked off when it comes to updates, so they'll definitely need to step up, considering Samsung is stepping it up really hard. But where I think Samsung needs to step it up is battery performance on the overall, where I think the OnePlus 9 Pro has all of its bases covered. And even though I've read reports already of the OnePlus 9 Pro sporting underwhelming battery performance, I like to look at things from an overall perspective, and that way you have 65-watt wired charging on the OnePlus 9 Pro, as well as support for 50-watt wireless charging. And if you compare that to 25-watt wired charging on the Galaxy S21 Ultra and 15-watt wireless charging on the Galaxy S21 Ultra, you're looking at more than 2.5 times the speeds that you get on the OnePlus 9 Pro, which is just unacceptable when it comes to a difference compared to the Galaxy S21 Ultra. This is probably the most underwhelming aspect of the Galaxy S21 Ultra, and to top it all off, the phone doesn't even ship with a charging brick. Whereas with the OnePlus 9 Pro, you have both the charging brick as well as the wire included in the box. This is 2021 for you. Now, there is an angle that can actually defend Samsung's cause here, which is the fact that the slower charging speeds means better battery health, but again, there's no exact way to compare this, especially when you're looking at two vastly different charging experiences, so I can't really give you a judgment on that. Yes, battery life might be affected in the long run, but whether or not it makes a significant difference is not something that I believe in. So there's that, and also the fact that the OnePlus 9 Pro has a 4500 mAh cell versus the 5000 mAh battery on the Galaxy S21 Ultra. So the thicker chassis of the Galaxy S21 Ultra at least takes advantage by giving you extra battery capacity. And with that, we come to the finale, the camera. The most hyped aspect of the OnePlus 9 Pro were the cameras, and I feel like the OnePlus 9 Pro is a victim of its marketing for sure. So there's a quad camera setup on the OnePlus 9 Pro where the 2 megapixel monochrome sensor is just there to make up the numbers. I don't think it really adds to the experience whatsoever, but what adds to the experience is one, the 48 megapixel IMX789 Sony sensor, and number two, the 50 megapixel ultra wide IMX766 Sony sensor. So the latter, the ultra wide angle lens, can also do macro shots, which is something that's really nice to see return. And also the fact that there's a freeform lens on the device, which means any sort of distortion that you typically find from flagship cameras will be eliminated when using the ultra wide angle lens. So in terms of the overall photography performance, as well as the colors, given the fact that there is a partnership with Hasselblad, it's a good step, but it's not a step that can overcome the optics of the Galaxy S21 Ultra, which we'll get to in a minute. But let me just finish off by saying the Hasselblad partnership is actually for 3 years. So the first year is just about colors, whereas the second and the third year is actually incorporating all of the Hasselblad hardware on OnePlus devices. So we won't see that for another 6 to 12 months, so you're just looking at color improvements for the time being. Even when it comes to color improvements, I just feel like the telephoto lens at 8 megapixels is underwhelming, and if you look at the colors from all of the lenses, you'll see a very distinct variation. You can check out Kevin's video on that. I'll leave a link down in the description. You'll be able to see the exact color differences between all three lenses, which is something that OnePlus really needs to fix. Not just that, it also needs to fix the front-facing selfie camera, which is apparently worse than the OnePlus 8 Pro from last year. So all of these things are subject to software updates from OnePlus, and I'm sure OnePlus is definitely working on this, but I just don't see how the overall experience can eclipse that of the Galaxy S21 Ultra. Speaking of the Galaxy S21 Ultra details, I won't delve into all of them in this video. You can check out my full review where I've really gone into detail about all of the cameras. You get a 108 megapixel primary, a dual 10 megapixel telephoto configuration for up to 10x optical zoom, as well as a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera and a laser autofocus unit. All of these work very well simultaneously, and they deliver an experience that is not only consistent but also reliable all across the board. And that is something that I really value from a flagship camera. Not just that, you get video recording support for up to 8K 24 FPS and optical image stabilization on all three of the main lenses. So both the telephotos as well as the primary lens come with optical image stabilization, which is another drawback compared to the OnePlus 9 Pro's optical image stabilization only found on the primary lens. There's also a 40 megapixel selfie camera on the Galaxy S21 Ultra for even more detailed selfies compared to the 9 Pro. I think the only aspect where the 9 Pro wins is with 4K 120 FPS support and 8K 30 FPS support for video recording, but it's just for the specifications. I think the overall video recording experience will still be better on the Galaxy S21 Ultra. So we're finally wrapping up this video and coming to the price of both of these smartphones. Let's start off with the OnePlus 9 Pro, which retails officially for $949 for the base variant, compared to the Galaxy S21 Ultra, which retails for $1,199 for its base variant. You could even go one step up for the OnePlus 9 Pro and opt for the 256GB version as well as 12GB of RAM version, and that only gets you to $1,049, which is still $150 cheaper than the base variant of the Galaxy S21 Ultra. But where the Galaxy S21 Ultra really takes the cake, not in terms of value, because I think the OnePlus 9 Pro is definitely up there when it comes to value, but when it comes to overall experience. So if you're part of the Galaxy ecosystem in general, you'll be able to take advantage of the trade-in program, and the trade-in program basically allows you to get the Galaxy S21 Ultra for as low as $400 or $250, which is a steal compared to the OnePlus 9 Pro's trade-in program, which gives you about $200 to $250 credit on your next purchase. So basically the trade-in program for the Samsung devices is just more generous, which is to be expected considering the differences in company stature between Samsung and OnePlus. But not just that, if you don't want to go through the official channel that is Samsung for the Galaxy S21 Ultra, you can still get the smartphone for as low as $1,050 or even $1,100. So if you compare it that way, I still do think the overall package you get is a better one on the Galaxy S21 Ultra. but it is a learning process for the OnePlus 9 Pro. And if you're a diehard fan, if you follow the journey, and if you want to stick by them and maybe sort of see the progress and experience it throughout, then the OnePlus 9 Pro is definitely for you. So yeah, those are my detailed thoughts on both of these smartphones. Again, I do not have the OnePlus 9 Pro, so I'm going off of information that I've seen online and the information that OnePlus has said to us. In fact, the UAE is not even set to get the OnePlus 9 Pro officially. There's been no news about the smartphone, but if there is a way to get the smartphone, I'll be sure to get my hands on it. But yeah, that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you found it useful. If you did, a subscription to the channel and a like rating would be very much appreciated. This was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.